the world-renowned South African independent forensic investigator David Klatzow has partnered with the SABC to broadcast a 10-episode true crimes documentary series titled David Klatzow, Looking into Darkness. Now, this series revisits some of the gender-based violence and femicide cases that shocked the country and the world. And it explores not only the motives of the killers, but also the lasting hurt and pain that was inflicted on secondary victims, in many instances the family and friends of those who were killed. The series will be broadcast from the 6th of August. And David Klatzow joins us now virtually to talk about this documentary series. David, thank you so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
That is my great pleasure, and a good morning to both you and to your listeners.
David, you know, when we think of South Africa and gender-based violence and femicide cases, sadly, one can just regurgitate, you know, a whole string of them, especially in the last little while, that have been so incredibly violent, but also etched in our psyches for all the wrong reasons. But looking at the series that's coming up on SABC, the stories that will be featured in this docu-series, how far back do they go?
They go back many years because this is an endemic problem, not only in South Africa, but worldwide. But South Africa seems to have cornered a rather unenviable position of being one of the leaders in this terrible set of crimes. I don't know if your listeners are aware that probably every 2 hours a woman is murdered in South Africa. Now, if you compare that with for instance, the UK, it's far less than that indeed here. Every now and again you get a woman that's murdered here, but it's nowhere near the level. And the general level of crime, of which this is a subset of that level of crime, is very high in South Africa. But concerningly, there is a very high level of gender-based violence, usually men on women gender-based violence. And it's not well understood, in my view, as to why this should occur. Why should men turn on the people that either they love or having a relationship with and inflict such brutality on them? It really concerns me, and I would love to know whether there are people doing the psychology of why this occurs. And you must remember something else, that not only is the victim involved in this whole terrible series, but there's secondary victims of the family and tertiary victims in view of the whole society itself. Society suffers when this sort of nonsense and terrible crime occurs.
And then I couldn't agree with you more, David, in terms of, you know, the sort of work that needs to be done to try and understand the psyche of the perpetrators, especially who commit these heinous crimes. But you have now partnered with the SABC to broadcast your True Crime Story series. Why do you believe this is important to revisit these crimes, especially at this time in our country?
Well, I think number one, it is to bring to the attention of the general public the awful situation that pertains in the country. And secondly, I think it's right that in this Year of the Woman that we involve the government more fully in it, and they need to take it more seriously. There are so many instances where the government is not taking this issue of gender-based violence seriously, and the police force, in fact, need to take it more seriously as well. I think that there are various problems which come about as a result of the downgrading in other people's eyes of this gender-based violence, not least of which is that women are reluctant to come forward in order to report such crimes to the police, because number one, they are very seldom or not often taken seriously about the whole issue. Rape crimes are very serious. I mean, we have at the moment in South Africa a senior judicial officer who's being investigated for gender-based issues and inappropriate behavior towards a subordinate female on his staff. That is very serious and very concerning. Now, if it happens at that level, and I'm not putting that at the same level as the murders that form part of the series, but I am saying that it is a symptom of the issues in the country, that women are not taken seriously about the issues that befall them. Now, the government needs to step up and make certain that these issues are properly investigated, that rape kits, and by the way, the police are way behind in their DNA analyses, and as far as I can work out, it's going to be unlikely that they are going to be able to catch up the backlog anytime soon. Now, of course, that has a major spill-off effect on the functioning of the courts, because what that means is that the perpetrators of these terrible crimes are not going to be brought to justice anytime soon. And as you know, the dictum that justice delayed is justice denied, many of these cases will be thrown out of court eventually, and that means that they will never be sorted out and they will never have the perpetrators brought to justice. So we need to step up to the plate and get everything done and start the ball rolling to have the backlogs reduced, to set up a way, and I've made a number of suggestions to various parties as to how to get this ball rolling. The necessity really is to make sure that we do some positive actions towards limiting and eventually preventing the scourge which is breaking our country apart.
David, you know, as you said, it can't be easy for the families and even the friends of those victims to revisit or relive those painful times. Were the families of the victims that you will be profiling, were they part of this documentary?
They were, and one's got to put one's heart out to them for their courage and their fortitude in coming onto the series, because revisiting such a terrible set of events is not good. Not good for your own psyche as a family member, and terrible to open up, scratch on wounds which may just be starting to close. But the fact is that they were courageous enough to do it, and I think their actions will bring to the fore the awareness that needs to be emphasized in order to make people aware and to stop doing it. And I think the other thing as well is that we need to engender in the public an attitude and a culture of reporting gender-based violence where you see it. In England, for instance, there are notice boards everywhere. If you go to a local medical clinic, there are notices which encourage you to report any gender-based violence or any violence whatsoever. Now, we don't have that culture in South Africa. We have a culture where, for instance, a few years ago, the police were found throwing all the rape kits away. And that gives you an indication of the kind of lackadaisical, laissez-faire type attitude towards this problem.
Now, David, it's a 10-part series. Each one, as we understand, tells the story of the darkness of the scourge of gender-based violence and femicide that has unfortunately become our scourge as a country. And one of those is, of course, the story that so many would remember of Tshegofatso Pule, who obviously, we remember was pregnant at the time when she met her unfortunate fate. What are some of the other stories that you'll be telling?
There are a whole range of stories involving a racehorse carer who was murdered. Of course, there was the case of, I don't think it's on the series, but there was the case of the a photographer who was accused of kicking a sex worker to death in Salt River. And as I say, there are a whole range of these cases, each of which made headlines at the time. There was the Scissors murder case, and there are far too many to go into in great detail. But certainly each one tells a story, and each story is unique in its sadness and its effect on the community at large.
Well, David, certainly looking forward to it. And if for no other reason, that it reminds us and shines a light on this terrible scourge that we carry as a society. But thank you so much for speaking to us this morning. David Klatzow, independent forensic investigator, talking to us there about his groundbreaking documentary series, David Klatzow, Looking into Darkness, which is a 10-episode true crime TV series that will be broadcast on SABC's S3, and it starts on the 6th of August. And of course, we'll be giving you more reminders closer to the time. So looking forward to that here on SABC.